Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa baraka wa sallama abada. Welcome back, viewers. Again, we're here day 4 now with the podcast, and alhamdulillah, so far the discussions are getting quite intensive. Yesterday's podcast fully enjoyed. I've got a lot of good feedback from that. Alhamdulillah, it was good content. Today, it's honestly, when we say freestyle, it's an absolute freestyle, because one of our lead members, who also you would call him he would direct the discussion, is absent again today. Basically the Stig of our podcast.
Doc,
Stig, whatever you call him. So he's absent again today. But some may know Stig, some may not know him. But mashallah, he asks a lot of questions and keeps the conversation engaged. Okay, have some anything in mind?
Yeah, we've got a panel of Huffaz, so alhamdulillah, what we can direct it towards is maybe talking about Hifzul Quran in the modern context. We've got multiple generations here now across the board. So maybe what was Hifz like in your time? Any challenges you faced, advices for youngsters today?
I see we could probably link it with yesterday's discussion regarding the madaris and their role in the upbringing of children. Even yesterday we had Hafiz Musa with us.
Yes.
And he was he was given a glimpse of his experience at Central Mosque as being a student of the madrasa. Why don't we ask over here? So we've got to introduce our new guest. We do try to bring in a new face every day. So we have with us Hafiz Mahmood, who alhamdulillah is a complete Hafiz of the Quran.
MashaAllah.
Last year I believe he led some rakat in Taraweeh as well.
Yes.
And alhamdulillah, to what I have come to understand from the teachers, they are full of good words, positive words towards his understanding, his memorization and his tajweed recitation.
MashaAllah.
Maybe we could start with a recitation.
Mahmood?
You Yeah. Okay, let's hear from Mahmood.
Al-amru fawqa al-adab. If you tell him to do it, he's got to do it.
Yeah, he's got to do it now. Go on, bismillah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها النبي جاهد الكفار والمنافقين واغلظ عليهم ومأواهم جهنم وبئس المصير ضرب الله مثلا للذين كفروا امرأة نوح وامرأة لوط كانتا تحت عبدين من عبادنا صالحين فخانتاهما فلم يغنيا عنهما من الله شيئا وقيل ادخلا النار مع الداخلين وضرب الله مثلا للذين آمنوا امرأة فرعون إذ قالت رب ابن لي عندك بيتا في الجنة ونجني من فرعون وعمله ونجني من القوم الظالمين ومريم ابنة عمران التي أحصنت فرجها فنفخنا فيه من روحنا وصدقت بكلمات ربها وكتبه وكانت من القانتين صدق الله العظيم.
جميل. أحسنت.
Surah Tahrim, eh?
MashaAllah.
Beautiful.
It actually links to a topic I wanted to put forward.
Go.
So, yesterday we were discussing the responsibilities we have over one another, if we could say, parents over children, teachers over students. What about individual responsibility, mas'uliyah, about yourself? Is that somewhere we could explore? We're all responsible for ourselves at the end of the day, is what I want to take it to. What do you think?
It's a good subject, but there's so many dimensions to it.
There are.
So many answers, so many aspects to it.
I think if you just explain, okay, what does it mean by the rights of yourself? You just mentioned there. We need to start from there and then take it forward.
I mean, we don't need to go further than the Quran, and we recited the ayah today. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu alaykum anfusakum. In Surah Tahrim as well, I believe. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu qu anfusakum.
Yep.
We have an individual responsibility to save our own neck, if I can say, to save ourselves first. At the end of the day, la taziru waziratun wizra ukhra. We're all responsible for ourselves. And so yesterday we were exploring societal problems, etc. But at the end of the day, it's upon each and every single one of us as individuals to go and make that change, to go and make those things, isn't it? So that's what I would say.
So these rights, it's a responsibilities upon every individual.
Yes.
I think it also links on from what we were describing on day 2. We said that with roles come responsibilities. Yeah? Okay, now which are those roles? An individual has a role of him, to protect himself from the fire of hell, like you said. Qul anfusakum, protect yourself. But that's up till an age where he's depending upon himself. As with age, responsibilities and roles start to pour in. Those responsibilities increase. So, for example, shall we take a direction from as from an early age?
Okay.
And then we'll start a discussion and progress.
Let's go on a journey.
Of life.
Let's go on a journey.
Okay. So one of the first responsibilities you have, which you don't realize, is your parents. And from a very young age, that's the first responsibility you have. But you're not aware of it up till, I'd say, you're about age of 10, 11, 12. You start to realize that they have rights. There are particular manners and particular things I must display in regards to them that are befitting of their status and rank. Before that age, you're quite oblivious, aren't you? You're unaware of these things. You're just enjoying yourself, and everything is just being done for you and it's put on a plate. Before that age, there's no awareness. Yeah. So then another one would be, for example, the role of a student. One of the first thing that you experience is a student life, isn't it? So your responsibility as a student. What are your responsibilities as a student? Let's tackle that.
So you have your own progression is your own responsibility at the end of the day. So you're in this course of education. It's only you at the end of the day that's going to take you forward in that course of education, primary, secondary, whatever it is. So in the case of a student, it's your job to learn, is what we're saying. It's your job to go ahead. It's your job to do your homework. It's your job to do what you need to do. So there's always that mas'uliyah, is what I was initially trying to say. We're all responsible. And man ra'a minkum munkaran, as a human being, as a Muslim, every single one of us has that duty. Whatever wrong we see, come forward, come do what we can. Everyone has that responsibility.
So in regards to, if someone does wrong and we have to, make him identify his wronging. Now the question is, how does someone, identify someone that he's doing something wrong? Okay, you see people in the masjid, especially the committee members. I'm targeting them here. They have this thing, Punjabi, oh, mere ko rehn nahi hunda, if he's done something, I'm going to say it to him. Okay, now the problem with that is we don't see, does it have an effect on the other person? Yes, you said it right, you might be the right thing, but the other person, he might not see it the same way, or he might be affected by what you're saying.
Yeah, that is an element of, Islah. There's a way. Even the Prophet ﷺ taught a particular way of doing somebody's Islah, to teach somebody the right manner to do it, where he would pull Sahaba Ikram to a side and speak to them on a level 1-to-1. That companion who, but he wasn't a companion at that time. He came to Masjid, the Bedouin, and he read in the Masjid. The Nabi ﷺ didn't hold him responsible in front of the congregation. In fact, asked that to be cleaned, and then took him to a side and spoke to him. Look, this is not the place, the adab of the masjid, what you had done. So these things come in. But as a student, going back to that student example, when we teach students, obviously when we teach them the deen, and they are not aware of their do's and don'ts, or they've learnt a bit of the Quran, a bit of Hadith, and these students they go home, and then they'll start to dictate to their parents, Abaji, this is what we got to do from now on. Or what you've been doing so far in your life is wrong. It's completely wrong. Yeah, this is what Islam teaches, and this is the way it should be done. So the parents, they turn around, is this what your Imam Sahib's teaching you in the masjid? To go home and speak up to your parents?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then eventually they'll make their mind up that we are not going to send our kids to the mosque.
As a result, that's going to happen, isn't it? That backlash is going to be there. So as a student, because we're going to try to progress stage by stage, as a student you have that responsibility to embrace that knowledge, but it's also responsibility of the teachers to tell them, look, there's a way that you approach your parents. See, they're in that position, they've been leading for 20 odd years. Now when you hit your 20s and now think you're going to dictate Islam to them and remind them of Islam, they will find that offensive.
Yes.
They have their particular ways, and a lot of the times we conflict the two, merge the two together, and we're not able to distinct between Islam and tradition. And a lot of the youth, the questions we get asked as Imams is, Imam Sahib, is this Islam or is it
my culture?
Yeah, or is this my culture?
By the hadith, that a person, he came to the masjid and he was walking in front, and there was an old man behind him. They were going to the masjid, and he alayhi salatu wasalam saw him coming, and they sat in front of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. The person who was in front, he started to complain, the Ya Rasulullah, this is my father, this old man walking behind me. And I go out to the farms and I do all the harvesting, and now when it's time to take the, let's say in our time, cash, let's just say cash, back then it was all Gundam, okay, so when it's time to take cash, he takes it all. So then what happens is, at that moment in time, you say that Jibreel came down and he said that, Ya Rasulullah, that person wants to say something, there's something in his mind that he wants to say something. So alayhi salatu wasalam said, oh, old man, you speak, what do you want to say? And he says, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that when he was young, I used to feed him. And now when I've come old, he says, everything is mine and you're separate. And the hadith say that he alayhi salatu wasalam, then he grabbed hold the collar of that young person and said, everything you and your money is for your father.
Anta wa maluka li abik. You and your property are in reality your father's property.
So these students of knowledge who are, for example, they're learning the deen just fresh, just come out, for example, first 2 lessons. What advice can we give to them? How should you deal with anything that's wrong in the house? Yes, you've got the knowledge, but how do you go about, telling people that this is wrong? Like I mentioned in the beginning, like committee members, when they see something wrong, they have to say it. Okay. Same with a student of knowledge. He's got the knowledge, but how should he recall, tell the other person, you're wrong?
Well,
and you, Mr. Or you?
What I was thinking is, for example, let's take an example of your parents. You, rather than you going to them and you teaching them, in that case, they're not gonna understand you. But if you go and practice, and for example, you go to your room and start reading the Quran or start reading namaz, and they come to your room and they see you doing it, that will have a different effect on them.
Will have an impact, yeah.
We see that in the teachings of Sayyidina Imam Hassan and Hussein, about the individual who was performing the wudu wrong, rather than going and telling the person how wrong it was, they asked to observe their own wudu and correct it, their own wudu and stuff like that. So that's beautiful.
I like to add here, okay, let's see the father is wrong, okay, and the child wants to correct his father. At times, what I've seen in the masajid, the child might be wrong, but the father goes around telling every single person that he's doing this wrong, he's doing this wrong. I remember we had a hafiz from our masjid, not going to mention his name, but I met his father like on 2 or 3 occasions, and the only thing his father says is, tell my child to respect me. And then he's saying that in front of other people are hearing. Okay, now, is that the correct way of correcting your child?
Not at all.
Any form of publicly telling somebody off never works. there's always going to be retaliation. See, every individual wants to protect his honor. Every person has a right to protect his honor as well, which we, or let's say parents, in the midst of or in the heat of the moment, will bypass that altogether and exercise their authority and release all their energy, not realizing the impact it's having on the child.
Not only that, it's the same parents who are conscious of dignity, and they want this child to respect them so that they can have a dignity, a boasting amongst the community that, look at my son, he's so, X, Y, Z. But then when they go out and tell people he's not doing it, they themselves are ruining their own dignity, their own status.
It's like
stabbing yourself in the back. Yeah. So
I think Imam Shafi is called. I read that correcting someone in public is actually degrading him.
Wow.
That's a very powerful statement. Like, yes, someone might be wrong, your child might be wrong, or the committee member might be wrong, but correcting them in front of 5-6 people, you're actually degrading that person.
And depends if it's a child, let's say under the age of 10, 12, 13, who doesn't really know much about self-respect and honor and dignity, parents may get away with it. But once that child is now becoming aware of his surrounding, he's starting to make his own decisions in life, which children are. Even though our parents like to call them a bacha, a child, for all their life, and they will treat him as a child as well. I mean, he's now 18, 19, and he's still doing wrong and weird, and the mothers will be like, "Are you the bacha? No, he's only a child, he's only a baby." He's not a baby, because he now makes his own decisions. And now when you hold him accountable in public, he's gonna retaliate. And then when then the backlash is, my parents are old school, my parents don't like me. So I had a case in my when I was in college.
Okay.
First few days of college, and I was making new friends basically. So when I came out from high school, I went to a college where nobody from my high school went to that college.
Okay.
So I had to make new friends. So made new friends. Few days go by, and this brother goes, I'm leaving my home."
Okay.
Like, "Hey, Ajib, what's going on?" He goes, "I hate my father, I hate my family, I don't get along with them, and I've spoken to the council, trying to sort out my own room or something. And I'm moving out." These are Muslims, yeah. I'm speaking
High Road.
13, 14 years ago.
High Road.
Yeah. So why? So the point I was trying to make, these kids, when they get to that point where they now want to leave their home, they will now have taken the conscious decision to leave their house and step away from their family. It's because of that treatment they're getting from their parents, isn't it?
It is.
And that's where parents need to realize, or at least step back and brainstorm, why is my child behaving this way? Why does my child want to leave?
I think the youth also need to realize something as well there. They should realize that my parents are from a different generation, and I can't expect what I would expect from my own generation. And that's something I've had to learn in a personal sort of way. Growing up, you look at what other people of your time are getting, and you think, why is my parents not like that? But day will come, you realize why. They came from a completely different background, completely different era. They never seen devices, they never seen technology. So we can't always expect our parents to be perfect. And I read somewhere, it said there's no such thing as a good dad or a bad dad. It's just a good day or a bad day.
Baghdad. Okay.
So it's a good day or a bad day, meaning they're trying as much as we're trying to be good people.
Of course. It's a working relationship, isn't it? Constantly improving. But everybody in the family unit has to play their role.
Yeah.
And there's always going to be give and take. There are going to be mistakes will be made. But what generally happens is parents are forgiving, but children are not forgiving. When
So true.
Yeah.
That's actually so true.
Look, I'm a youth speaking up now. Yeah. If a parent makes a
The
mistake,
regret on his face.
he's not forgiven by the child. How can my father make this mistake? But look how many mistakes you've made all your life.
Yeah.
And your father's forgiven you, your mother's forgiven you every time round. And still they give you another opportunity, another chance. Maybe he'll come back, he'll correct himself. But if a parent makes a mistake, it's like there's no room. There's no room for them to make mistake at all. So then comes in the retaliation. And now they're thinking of they're going to other directions. And worst case scenario is I want to leave. I want to move out.
Yeah.
Go on.
With the parents thing that Ustad Fahim said, that it's either a good day or a bad day. The thing is, with parents, when they have children, they did not do a course of being a parent. As the child is growing up, they're learning how to be a parent. So it's not really their fault.
It's not their fault. I think we should recognize that nobody taught them how to be parents. In fact, it's opposite for our generation. We're full of advices. You know, your internet is telling us how to do it. Books have been written on how to do it. Our parents didn't have that. So I think we should have a minimum of excuses for them. But when it comes to our term, I think there are no excuses, because we are talking about how to be the best parent. Maybe they never had those talks. So
wait till you become a parent, Afzal. Yeah, you mentioned
Still
it.
waiting.
You're telling us now, yeah? It's easy giving advice. Yeah, there's a famous call from some Imam as well. It's easy to give advice, but difficult to implement it yourself.
there's actually a poem. I'll just get it out whilst you talk.
Ayat, isn't it? Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu lima taquluna ma la taf'alun.
So, لِمَ تَقُولُونَ مَا لَا تَفْعَلُونَ.
There's this poem. It says, فَكَمْ أَنْتَ تَنْهَى وَلَا تَنْتَهِي
Okay.
وتسمع وعظا ولا تسمع فيا حجر الشحذ حتى متى تسن الحديد ولا تقطع.
Allah.
He said, you stop. Oh, how many people have you stopped, but you yourself don't stop? You make people listen to advices, but you don't listen yourself. Ya hajar al-shahdi. Hajar al-shahd is like the stone that you sharpen a knife with. He said, oh, sharpening stone, until when is it that you sharpen other stones, but you yourself can't cut?
Subhanallah.
So it's interesting about giving advice and then you yourself acting upon it.
Mahmoud made a very powerful point there. That parents, they're also learning, aren't they?
Yes.
They're building their experience of you. You are their first, like you were saying, guinea pigs, where they're trialing their parenting skills on you. They've not had that chance on anybody else, and you are the first batch that they're working on. Yeah. If that's correct to say. But anyway, you're the first batch these guys are working on. Yeah. This is why when they become grandparents, now they're all wise.
Yes.
And they know exactly how to manage children.
That's actually very spot on now. When they become grandparents, they're perfect now. To the grandchildren, they're the kindest, they're the best, they're the most generous.
But with
to
their own
to us-
children, they've made hundreds of mistakes.
Yeah.
Because they were learning naturally.
Fair
Yeah,
enough.
and we have to give them that.
Doesn't the Quran mention that when you become granddads, you attain that awe? There's an ayat, Wallace was mentioning once as well. There's an ayat somewhere that when you become a granddad, you become a family. You've made a family. There is somewhere. I'm just gonna ask him afterwards.
Nothing comes to mind.
Okay.
Anyway,
Okay.
Anyway, I might be wrong.
Age,
I might be
with
wrong.
age comes experience.
Definitely.
And they're learning. So children, come back to that the school situation, or in a madrasa, they're learning something. They come back. There is adab in the way you approach your parents and describe them. This is what I've learned. It has to be a balance. Has to be a proper approach.
Do you think children need ilm in any case, or do they need adab more than anything? Like, should madrasas be giving a ilm centered approach to youngsters, education, or should it be adab centered? And ilm can come at a later time. Or do you think?
It has to be a balance of both.
Do you reckon?
Yeah.
Balance
I
of
want
both.
to say one thing: the shaitan had ilm, didn't he?
They had no other.
He
Yeah.
had
no
no
adab.
adab.
So shaitan had no other. Had plenty
ilm.
knowledge.
But I think you need ilm. So if someone doesn't know how to do stanja, straight up, okay, but he's got bare adab.
So that comes to the
Right, okay.
for making
So
a balance.
now, how does that work?
Mm.
Okay. So I think if you look at ilm, still overpowers everything. Ilm is the thing. If you've got ilm and you've got the correct aqidah with that ilm, yes, your adab might be wrong, but with that ilm, inshallah, Allah Ta'ala may forgive you.
With the power of knowledge, it will discipline you.
Mm.
Yeah, it's like the ulama describe. I remember Minhaj al-Abidin, Imam al-Ghazali, he gives an example of the fruit that grows on the tree. As that fruit becomes heavier, that fruit starts to come down, doesn't it? Yeah, and that's what knowledge does to you. As you're bearing knowledge, yeah, and it's becoming heavier, automatically it brings you down to earth.
Isn't it Imam al-Ghazali who says, al-ilm bila amal كشجر بلا ثمر.
Yeah.
That knowledge without action is like a tree without fruits anyway. He said علم بلا عمل مجنون والعمل بلا علم لا يكون.
Yeah.
He said to have knowledge but not to act upon it is insanity. But to act without knowledge is impossible.
That's impossible. A bit of balance on all cases. Okay, then you progress from your school life and you go into college. For the majority of our listeners will be the English audience anyway.
Yes.
So they go to college and then university. College and university is a
Dangerous place.
Free for all.
It's a dangerous place.
It's a free for all.
Free for all, yeah. Because in high school you still have the teachers that keep an eye on you in the playground. You have to abide by particular timings, rulings. You're still confined, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's limitations.
Yeah.
In college, the only limitation is in that lecture, and that's it. Beyond that, you could be doing whatever you want. You may tell your parents, "I've got a lecture, so I'm going." But in reality, you've got nothing going on. No one's to question you.
Yeah.
You may go and you only have an hour lecture and a tutorial, let's suppose, and within 3 hours you're done. You should be home. You've told your parents, "I've got an entire day." So the other 5 hours, where are you spending that?
But that's just college. But when you go to university and you are living in a different city,
Yeah.
and
you moved out,
you got no brother, sister, mum, dad there on your
That's
own,
when you're on your own.
that's where it becomes very difficult.
Definitely.
It's like freedom.
And especially when it is our sisters going on their own into another city, that's even more dangerous for them.
Your brothers or sisters, I think it's equally. A lot of the time we pick on the sister and say, "Look, they have more responsibility." No, both men, women, boys and girls have equivalent.
But sisters are more vulnerable. That's what I'm trying to say. They're more vulnerable than the males. I'm coming from that angle.
In vulnerability in terms of physically or any other way, but in terms of iman, they're both same.
Both are just as responsible as well.
Just as responsible. Both are at risk equally, because so many youngsters we know that go to college and university, they get taken away by the nightlife and the wildlife of what the Western culture has, and for them, it's the first experience of that wildlife when they go to university. I've been to few institutions, been to Hertfordshire University, been to Manchester as well. For example, Hertfordshire, when I moved out, I'll give my own experience. Alhamdulillah, I was fortunate to have the right people around me.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, and it's so important, especially the students that are thinking of going to university from college and moving out of cities especially, that you have the right people around you. I'd rather sacrifice a good university for one that's slightly less than that, but where you have your Muslim brothers around you. You have that environment. You have to, so you're in the right sohbah at all times. Just for the sake of that good title on your on your degree, Manchester University or Oxford, Cambridge, you've moved out from Manchester, you've gone all the way to Oxford, but then you're on your own. You're like that sheep that's lost from its flock, isn't it? And now the wolf can come and take you at any time, like the hadith describes. You have to stay with the flock, otherwise you'll be taken. And that's what's happening to a lot of our Muslim brothers and sisters.
Now we've got more and more of these Islamic, so to speak, universities cropping up left, right and centre. Would you encourage Muslim youth to attend these in any case?
It takes, I think, a strong background and family support to go there, because those Muslim universities are not the highest ranked universities. So to make that sacrifice, you need a family that supports you to go there. Otherwise, every family, their priority will be Cambridge, Oxford, Manchester.
Just to make clear, there is no Muslim university in the UK.
Yeah.
There is no university. There are institutes that are linked with another university.
They have an Islamic ethos, is what they're saying.
But there is no Muslim-run university, because every university is linked with Oxford and Cambridge. They have some type of link. And to open a new university, you need to contact them. And the people running the show at Oxford and Cambridge, I've heard the lecturers are actually, they've got a relationship with EDL.
Wow.
So there are many hurdles, put it that way.
But anyway, in regards to university, would you recommend for students the open university, which is all online?
What is the open university?
It's like from home.
Online.
For like from home, for example, when Corona came in, everyone's at home. Open University is basically online. Your lectures are online. Your classes are online. Assignments are online. Exams are online. Everything online.
I wouldn't. In any case, I would speak against that. In any case, because the objective of university is you're seeking knowledge at a higher level now. You're more in need of the discipline of the teacher than anything. You need his sohbat. Otherwise, you're as good as the person who just reads online.
Universities ain't giving no sohbat at all. They only giving you the education. They just want your money, and that's it.
I mean, you know, sometimes you sat in the lecture, the teacher, the way they explain it, the atmosphere they create, the presentation they give it with, all those things contribute towards your understanding of what's being taught.
But you know, I've been to university. I've been to the Islamic University, and I've been to the normal university, MMU. Okay, my experience is majority of the students, 99% of the students, even after the lecture, they're on YouTube trying to understand. This is a reality. Okay, majority of them are on YouTube looking at what's the norming, forming, storming, the motivational theories. What are they, right? Okay, they'll be there searching videos upon videos.
But do you not think that's a failing on the students' behalf? Because those tutors who are teaching themselves are oceans of that knowledge.
Yes.
So it's for you as a student to go on after the class, access them. When I was at university, that's what I did. In the break time, Hafiz Yasin was with me. We went to the lecture and we sat with him. That's how I understood the subject. Outside of the classroom, these teachers open up more than you would ever see. The libraries are available. Of course, it's a failing on the students' behalf, I think.
It's also like you got another prospectus on another approach on that same.
And English university are totally different.
The ethos.
I went madrasa. I know I could talk to my Hafiz Gul. He'll sit down and chat to me properly. When I go to Bernadette, she's gonna look at me and say, "Yes, Mohammed, this, that, and the other. These are the 4 bullet points, and that's it, mate. Do your reading yourself."
Of course, the approach is very, very different.
But I'm just saying, you know, for like modest houses where the for example, I know a person who's about to send his girl to London to do a medical degree.
Okay.
Right. For these type of people, this is my recommendation. You are open to criticize me. Is that for them it should be online, open university.
I think now you're directing the question towards females. I think for a female, open university is a bit more feasible.
Yeah.
And like you said, they are more vulnerable, etc. So they'd be in the safety of their own home at the same time receiving a higher education. So I see the appeal.
We in no way are trying to discriminate against sisters studying. Yeah.
Disclaimer.
A disclaimer for this. Because the Prophet ﷺ,
we're just thinking good of them, how to protect them. It's
different approach. Yes, we need lady sisters and sisters that are doctors, that are nurses, 100%. Because the ulama have mentioned that for sisters to go out and study, one of the sciences which we promote is the medical field.
Definitely.
Because we need sisters in every field of medicine. So when our women sisters face any medical issues, at least they can be treated by females within the clinics or something like that. But other than that, ulama do hold back from other subjects because it's not really in the bigger picture. There's not actually a so-called demand of such. But going back to the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, he ﷺ promoted education of women.
Definitely.
Yeah, we mentioned yesterday as well, Islam is a very forward-thinking religion. It's a very liberal religion as well, but with the limitations of the Sharia, tilka hududullah, remain within the parameter that Allah has set, and you'll be fine. There won't be any problems. So when Nabi ﷺ would marry any woman, it's proven again and again from the seerah that the first instruction would be that she learned to read and write. Every woman that came into his household, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the instruction was to learn read to write, because at any moment, if a wahy revelation was to come, that woman, Mu'mineen radiyallahu anha, had to be equipped with the basic skills to record that revelation. There is a possibility, not that there is a possibility, but this is a precaution, isn't it? Because Quran says, "La tuharrik bihi lisanaka lita'jala bih, inna alayna jam'ahu Qur'an." The Quran was going to be compiled upon the Prophet anyway. but the physical element of protection and preservation of the Quran was that it had to be documented
Through the Sahaba, yeah.
to the Sahaba and Sahabiyat if they're at home, because Wahi came out every time. Yeah, Imam Suyuti and in Al-Itqan he describes so many different forms of revelation.
Yeah.
Even when he's traveling, he's in revelation. He's receiving revelation on earth, in earth, under earth, everywhere.
Night, day,
Yeah, night, day,
Safar, everything.
Safar, Hadar, weather.
You know,
Even when he's in bed with his wife, Allah Rabbul Alameen is sending down revelation.
Subhanallah.
Yeah. So they had to be ready.
Definitely.
So this instruction, I mean, خُذُوا ثُلْثَ الدِّينِ مِنْ عَائِشَةَ مِنْ حُمَيْرَةَ.
There you go. Subhanallah.
Take a third of your religion from Humayra.
yeah.
I say the Aisha radiallahu anha. And she being one of the most intelligent individuals to have walked this earth.
Faqiha.
There's actually a
Faqih.
book. There's actually a book called Al-Muhaddithat.
Acha, it's a controversial book though.
I know it's a controversial, but I used it for my assignments. But
It's an
that-
achievement. I would agree it's an
yeah,
achievement.
it's a very good achievement where they highlight the writer. He's mentioned the Sahabiyat who were teachers and Muhaddisat who were actually narrating hadith in the Masjid of Dimishq. Yeah, Masjid of Dimishq. There were actually female teachers who would teach males
Female
Hadith.
scholars,
hadith.
Without
Yeah.
doubt.
Right.
yeah. I mean, one of the
Damascus.
one of the needs of our time right now is that we need sisters to come forward
Yeah.
and study the deen.
Definitely.
One of the biggest things we are right now in and around Manchester. There's only one known teacher, female sister, that's teaching and that can teach all the sciences.
Yeah.
Is that in Chimil?
Yeah.
Okay.
Other than that, is there any other sister that we know? Yeah. Any other Sunni sister from the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah that is teaching
Yeah.
all of these sciences, who's capable to teach, who we can say that she can be given the platform to teach sisters? There's only one in the English language.
Well, I
So
would
the rest
recommend-
of Manchester, ask
Yeah.
ourselves this question: what education are our daughters getting right now?
I would recommend it's for parents here that your daughters, at least before they are married off, should be taught Bahari Sharia.
Wow.
Bahari Sharia. That will make them a alima. If they are able to understand, comprehend the Bahari Sharia, they can go on and teach
Wow.
majority all of the fiqh masail, aqaid masail from there. And then that would inshallah produce female ulama, inshallah. They don't have to go through the sarf now. I don't think women need to go through sarf now. It's not needed because we're not males there. But if they can go through Bahari Sharia, understood the fiqh, aqaid, that should be enough for them.
Fard Ain has to be taught
Definitely.
Yeah.
and be at a position where they can teach Fard Ain as well.
Yeah.
Because, like I was mentioning, it's because these are the mothers of the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, we mentioned this and we use it as a quote that that's the first schooling that a child has.
Yes,
Yeah.
the mother.
A school is run by good teachers.
Yeah.
If that teacher is not trained to teach,
Yeah.
then what type of school are you giving your child?
So I'll give you an example. My wife, she's doing Bahari Sharia right now
MashaAllah.
online. She's doing Bahari Sharia and she's up to, I think, the principles of namaz, the ahkam of namaz. She's doing to all aqaid and tahara. Now she's doing to salah right now.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, can say that. Now we have many teachers. Myself, we were teaching in a class where sisters are sat to one side
Yeah.
and we're delivering that knowledge. We are having to take that on because there are no female teachers.
Yeah.
So we're having to have them sit on the side and facilitate. That's the only way. But in the ideal situation, should be that a female teacher should be teaching the sisters and a male teacher teaches the males.
Yes.
Why have the two sat in the same room? Of course, there's a veil, there's separation, yeah. But that's how we're having to adapt. But what we really do want is sisters to come forward and
Definitely.
study the deen. From the likes of the great ulama that we have today, we're only improvising. Yeah, not the we have no knowledge. Neither do we have that experience or the wisdom to teach them. But our great ulama are still alive today. So don't lose our opportunity to study with them. Go to them and study with them so that this knowledge can continue. Just like we have this great Sahabiyat as an example who would teach behind a veil. Sayyida Aisha radiallahu anha would teach behind the veil. Sahaba kiram would knock on the door and they would ask at times very intricate questions. Even matters of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam being in the bedroom with them. And the Mu'mineen Sayyida Aisha would respond and give them these answers because there was a level of maturity, wasn't it? These Sahaba were coming to their mother and
There you
asking, "Oh mother, this is a question we have.
Subhanallah.
What was the practice of the Prophet ﷺ?" And they would get the response. So I mean, that's one of the great needs of the time right now. So definitely they need to study. We're not in any way putting down secular sciences at all. If it's available to study in a safe environment, then definitely it's something that should be taken
I think,
on.
in regards to women learning the Farz Ulum, they don't need to, for example, become teachers, just for 1 minute saying that. Why? Women need to learn Farz Ulum.
They need to.
Yeah,
There's
they
a
need
big
to learn
need
the
for
Farz
them.
Ulum.
Yeah, there's a big
Before they become teachers, need to learn the Farz Ulum themselves.
Yes.
If you just
So they learn the
understand
Farz
that
Ulum, then they
point,
go on to teach
just understand that point, that they have to just learn it just for yourself first. Okay, then become teachers after that. For example, namaz, ahkam, tahara, masail, okay, zakat, for example, all of these they need to learn. Okay, and that's important for females.
Moving on. Then after student life, you now become. So we talk about individual
Yeah.
responsibilities, because kullukum ra'in, kullukum mas'ulun an ra'iyati.
Right.
Every one of you will be questioned for the responsibilities that fell upon you. So after education, most likely a lot of us, we generally speaking now, the masses, is that after education you then start to look for a spouse, for somebody to become your partner in life, whom you will then live a family life with.
Can I just add there? Isn't that happening now in college and university time now?
What?
Where people are looking for a spouse at that time. So
This
they've gone to
day is happening
university,
earlier
they've
than
gone
that.
to college, but they've
What's
liked
up?
someone there,
Tell them, man.
right? They've liked someone there, and that's it. They want to become in a relationship with them. So then, like, firstly, the question is, how do you go about looking for someone? And number two is, when you go to university or college and you find someone there, how should you control yourself or be able to know that this is right and this is wrong? I shouldn't be choosing someone at this moment in time. This question we didn't talk.
That's a difficult one, isn't it? You can't.
I think
you
that
can't
requires its
control
own
emotion.
podcast.
Indeed.
Come on.
Requires its own podcast, that question. But
I had a question yesterday, just after the podcast. Somebody questioned me that is it wrong to have female friends?
oh yeah, you forwarded that question, didn't you?
Yeah, it was forwarded to me. Is it wrong to have female friends?
What do you think is it?
You tell me.
You tell me.
There's obviously a classical position.
Okay, go on.
There's obviously a classical position where, other than necessity, there should be no interaction. But I think this day and age demands different things of different people. You know, for example, if you take.
But is it haram? That's the question. If someone wants to have, for example, in university, like I know I've been there, you have to be in for example, a group assignment. That's a group assignment.
Let me give you a real life
Right.
example there.
What do you do then?
There's a colleague who's we all know him in this room, very close to all of us. He was sharing a personal experience where in the workplace he's required to communicate with the opposite gender,
Yeah.
and that's all he does, communicate. And he felt really saddened by this, you know. So he was asking counsel from various people, and you know, him communicating in and of itself is not wrong, is it? Is just a basic communication to the other opposite gender and necessity in a workplace wrong, but he himself felt it was so wrong
To communicate.
he felt it was wrong. Even as simple as you're signing into the office and the lady's a receptionist and
Yeah.
you're saying hi and bye,
Yeah.
and he felt it was really wrong upon him spiritually. He felt it, you know.
So that these people that go to
Devastating.
university, what happens is they then join these Islamic societies.
Oh, a lot of
That's-
wrong happens there.
That's another hot topic, okay?
It's just a dating service.
Halal dating service, eh?
Okay. So then, if someone's going down London, for example, and he's going to join a certain Islamic society, right, where there is the opposite gender, okay, what advice do you give to them? They're saying, like we said, I want to join the herd, stay close with the Muslims, but at the same time, there's this, you know, danger.
A lot of haram does take
There's
place.
danger of going
we've
down
been
that
through
route.
universities. We know people that have led these societies, Islamic societies, and their feedback. People that have gone and attended, organized, facilitated events, and they know the haram that you are exposed to. Some of them have made tawbah and never gone back.
Oh.
Others continue to go there, and they see it as a halal platform to engage with the opposite gender. Go
How's
on.
it halal?
Okay,
They
so,
call it halal.
so I'm the only one that has not gone uni. So I'm asking you this: is university corrupt? That's all you got to say.
My son is not corrupt. It depends on you.
Yeah, it depends.
Like, knowledge is for
It
everybody.
can be
man,
corrupting depending on how you conduct yourself.
Yeah, how you
Yeah.
conduct yourself.
Yeah.
It's the intention that you go with. I've been to university. Okay, so not many people get the chance to move out from home. I moved out for 3 years, but I can say alhamdulillah, never needed to engage with the opposite gender, never needed to, never was exposed alhamdulillah to that nightlife. Completely stayed away. And a lot of people that go, I know now, unfortunate. There was a Hafiz that was with us. He, for the first year, actually went to nightclubs.
Wow.
I never saw him, or I don't think he had, God forbid, he didn't go beyond that, as in drinking or anything. But he definitely had experiences of the nightlife that was there in Hertfordshire. And many students go there. I mean, you make friends want to go with friends, and now to keep up with the friends and to be part of the group. When everyone's going, you have to go to keep your face. So all of this happens in university. I mean, I've seen, we were mentioning sisters and the exposure and you know how they, I mean, it's a difficult position they're in. I know for the example, and I was in Hertfordshire. So alhamdulillah, I can share this on this platform as well. My father got me married the year I went to university.
That's what helps you.
Yeah. And you know, once you're married and you now go to university, no matter what the opposite gender may throw at yourself,
You're not
Shaitan's
interested.
firing every target he can at you.
You're not interested.
Yeah. That wife of yours is Junnatun, isn't it? It's a shield.
Yeah.
It's protecting you. You're
Yeah.
protecting your iman in that way.
So
Well,
Okay,
I wasn't married when I went to university.
That's
I got married in the final year of university.
But he was at home, see? The difference
no,
is
but-
he was homing.
Yeah.
Another
He
thing
in
was-
Manchester. I had moved out.
Another thing that I think was help was at university was my clothing.
mashallah.
Okay, I didn't wear the band shirt. Okay, tracksuit bottoms. Oh, right, I'm gonna put it like that. Band shirt. Okay, none of that. Okay,
You just went like this, basically.
I went like this as I am right
Mashallah.
now into the lecture room.
As you
Okay,
see,
I was the only one there. Okay,
Look, I did the same.
okay.
I kept my dress code. Look, if
You don't need to fear your dress code. If they can wear, matlab ki that chaddi is showing, and they're going into
they could wear nothing.
wearing nothing and going into the.
no, I'll even add to that. I was a mechanic.
Yeah.
I even went to Mercedes. You
Yeah.
know, whilst I was working in all of my interactions, travels, I mean, I was in the jubba and the turban.
Mashallah.
When needed to be, I went in the overalls. I still had a black turban on, just so you didn't see the dirt on it. You know, if
Yeah.
it does get dirty. And that demand, it created such a level of respect amongst my tutors.
Yeah.
You know, they used to, they had a name for me out of jest, the
Yeah.
Turbinator, right? But they had so much respect. Like I was the only one who could control the class, etc.
Yeah.
You know, they respect you. They open doors for you when you dress like that.
Yeah.
On the bus, people commend you. Obviously, I'm walking around with a big rucksack, so at the time it was a bit difficult.
Yeah.
But people, they really respect you when you show your tradition and your culture and you walk around with it.
Yeah.
You know, the Sunnah, the
look
Prophet
different,
Islam
you look
has an
unique.
effect.
Yeah.
The Sunnah has an effect. People, all the no discrimination, the opposite gender, or the people that want you to go towards the wrong,
Yeah.
just by looking at your dress code, they move away.
Even in the airports, people always share concerns with me before I go. They're like, just don't wear the turban when you go to the airport. And so what you don't realize is all the people who have caused troubles at the airports don't wear turbans.
Yeah.
The ones who wear
That's the biggest
turbans are the ones who, like in Cairo airport, those who went with me know, Sidi, pass through. There's so much respect because you're wearing the Awama Sharif.
Yeah.
You know, when you don't compromise for
I
people,
mean, if
they
you
will
were a
respect.
terrorist, would you really put on this uniform?
Exactly.
It's not really good disguise, is it?
Yeah. It's when they see a Muslim looking or a brown looking fella in Western clothing, that's when the alarm bells start ringing. They think this guy's trying to hide. You know,
Yeah.
what's he trying to hide? Whereas us, we go as we are, hearts on the sleeve.
People are just
You
the
know.
snakes that
Mm,
want
Yeah.
to be sent to infiltrate.
But what's difficult is universities, okay, but when you go to those Muslim societies in universities,
Mm.
I mean, you're wanting to find a safe haven for yourself,
Yeah.
but not realizing it's sugar coated, isn't it?
Well,
In reality, what's happening is there's so much exposure.
I had a conversation with someone who we all know, who's supposed to be here as well. He said, well, in the societies, at the end of the day, that's where the practicing Muslims are trying to go as well. So he goes, if you are going to look at university, look for a spouse whilst you're at that time. He goes, that is the best place. He goes, because Islamic activities are taking place, you're going to find people who are Islamic minded. Now, I don't know how well he knows about those situations, but
See, within a controlled measure, okay, there's an argument at least. But you leave a bunch of young fellas, males and females, together in a room, the discussion gets going, then you start to pick up numbers. Those numbers start to exchange numbers, exchanging messages. You start to meet outside those societies. And then once you're in that khalwa, the third person is shaitan.
Yeah.
And that's where it's now indulging you in sin. Yes, there's an element, like I said, where you will find practicing Muslims there. But those practicing Muslims have a shaitan attached to them as well. Those practicing Muslims also have feelings, have desires. They're also teenagers. They also have hormones flying through the roof. And when you're exposed in that environment without a controlled environment, controlled exposure, that's what I'm saying. There's no controlled exposure. It's all out.
so this comes back to then responsibility. That everyone should stay responsible and stay awake, stay aware.
Know your rights.
Stay aware. Allah says, "Inna shaytan lakum aduun, fattakhidhuhu aduwa." So being aware that shaitan is at play, our nafs is at play, I
At
think.
the same time, shaitan is weak. Inna kayda shaitan kana za'ifa.
Yeah, but
Inna
that's
kayda
within a
kunna
controlled
azim.
measure.
Yeah?
Inna kayda kunna azim.
Yeah.
Women's.
Okay, the kun nadim, you missed the second part of that, innit? Because that the challenge that comes with the opposite gender is a huge challenge. Yeah. But
Don't go down. Don't go down that route.
يعيدكم إن الشيطان يعيدكم الفقر ويأمركم بالفحشاء.
Yeah.
That's what shaitan's ultimately going to want.
Yeah.
He's going to scare you with poverty, so you don't want to give donations in the month of Ramadan.
Yeah.
But what he really wants to promote is fuhsh, which is indecency. And that's what he's ultimately doing at every time, whether you realize it or not. So I've seen examples where, so in Harvard University, for example, so after the lectures, I would be on the phone with my wife and speaking to her. So I see in the car park across the other side, a Muslim sister in a hijab, she's got into a car with a brother. And they've got up to stuff that they should not be doing. So there was physical contact taking place in the haram way. And she's wearing a hijab, she's wearing a niqab.
Niqab.
Yeah. It's happening. I mean, and we know so many examples. I mean, we don't want to be stereotyping here in any way. But we have sisters that as soon as they leave the house, got the full parda shad, everything on. Once they get onto the bus towards university, everything's taken off.
Yes, hello.
They land in university once they get off, and they become part of that environment. And on the way back from university on the bus, they put it on again. Ding dong, I'm home. Oh, mashallah.
Rabi Basri.
So much that I mean, parents have to make that conscious decision. Are we really going to expose them to all of this environment?
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
And a lot of the time, what's happening is even after they've completed the studies, they get married. After a few years of marriage, they have a few kids. They stop working.
But
A lot of them do.
this is with the boys as well, not just the girls, the boys as well. They go there, they're open to that environment, and then they're making girlfriends as well. And those boys saying they get married, they've married at the command of their parents, but they've still got a girlfriend from uni.
It's a difficult position.
Oh.
Parents, this is where the strong parenting comes in, and right from a young age, they need to be told their rights and their limits. Now, I went to an Islamic school here, KD Grammar. The brothers that came to school in year 7 and they already were from a good religious background, they left at year 11 with that same understanding because they had the support from the family. Then we have others in the class that had no religious background. Parents thought they've done their bit by sending them to a religious school. Yeah. After year 11, when they went to college, now, I didn't go to, like I said, my college was different from everybody else's. College, when it comes to college, I mean, I came to know that all of those brothers that did not have that religious background, in college, they never prayed the Jummah Salah. Jummah's taking place in a particular room. They sat in the room next to it. They've been told that, bro, let's go pray Jummah Salah, and they've said no.
Oh.
A lot of all of this tarbiyah comes from home. Until that environment at home is not there, and we tell our children, look, we're not to engage in these relationships. we are not to make friends with the opposite gender. Yes, like Hafiz said, that you'll be put in group assignments and stuff, and that you will have to engage, but that's within a professional parameter. Yeah, within professional relationship, and that's all. Leave it to that.
Yeah.
But once you go beyond that and make it personal, that's when things will go out of hand. Now, for example, the hadith describes that to touch a female, it is better for you to have nails
In your head.
hammered into your head,
Yeah.
than for you to touch the opposite gender. When you go to college, university, I've seen this because I've had that exposure, and I speak from that experience. Muslim brothers, beards, mashallah, brother looking so religious, but when they go to university, the first thing they'll do is they'll shake hands with the opposite gender, and if she moves forward and she wants a hug, they'll give the hug as well.
I'll tell you one story of mine.
All of this happens in
and
university.
it-
And
and
why is this happening? You know why?
I'll-
Because
I'll-
per generation, the exposure is so much. Our parents are not teaching our children, look, this is your limit. And I'll give you an example as well, my own example again.
Can I give you my example?
Those
first?
same, let me finish first.
Those
Those brothers that were leaping forward and giving the hugs and shaking hands and doing the full shaban, that is because from the day one, they portrayed a particular image.
Okay.
And put it this way, had given signal to the opposite gender, I'm welcoming to a handshake, I'm welcoming to a hug, and there are no limits. Come my way. Myself, I went to university. I landed a week later, so those friends had already made friends. So when I went there, day one, they knew, look, a religious guy got a beard, but when they tried to come forward, sister, this is my limit. Not gonna shake hands, and I ain't gonna give you no hugs, but this is it. So on the day one, I set the benchmark. You don't cross this limit. Okay, well, where did I get the energy or the passion to do that?
Yeah.
Where did that tarbiyah come from?
Father, your family.
Came from home.
Yeah.
Now from home, if that's not drilled into that child from a young age, when he goes out there and he sees that all the boys are giving her a hug, am I the only one that's not going to
You've
give her a
actually
hug?
touched on a very deep issue, is that families make cousin relationships very normal.
Yeah.
What they don't realize is it shouldn't be normal.
Yeah.
So you've touched on a
So
very interesting
yesterday
issue.
we recited حرمت عليكم أمهاتكم
Yes.
وبناتكم وأخواتكم وعماتكم وخالاتكم وبنات الأخ وبنات الأخت وأمهاتكم اللاتي أرضعنكم, and towards the end of the ayah إلى الأخ.
Question: did you have a television at home?
Television or not, right now the issue is social media.
Social.
Every person's got a television in his hand.
Social
Yeah.
media is like-
But when the parents must instill khawf, we were mentioning yesterday,
Khawf.
teach your child khawf,
Yeah.
fear of Allah, teach him taqwa, teach
Yeah.
him these things from a young age. Just having a beard does not mean you've become religious. Just wearing a scarf, my sister, doesn't make you religious.
Yeah.
It's the haya inside.
Bilkul.
Yeah, it's a modesty within that we want to awaken. Because when the hadith says, Al-haya'u shu'batun min al-iman, haya is one of the branches of iman. But that is,
إذا لم تستحي فاصنع ما شئت.
yeah, when there is no haya, you could do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Do whatever you want. But it comes from the heart. You have to be modest in
I'll give
there.
my example. I was at uni. I think it was a Thursday, and our lesson finished early. The teacher said, it's finished, you can go. So what happened is, we had an exam after like 2 weeks. I started preparing for the exam outside the class. Anyone who's been to MMU, Manchester University, Metropolitan University, they'll know that there's 4 floors. On each floor, there is, on the side, there's small benches where you can sit down and have, sit down and do your research or prepare for exam. So I was sat there preparing for my exam, and all of a sudden I hear someone running on the side, actually running proper fast, and not just 1, 2 people running. And I'm like, what is this? I look to the side, and there's a guy with a big beard running behind a girl, chasing, playing hide and seek in the university building. And I'm like, what's going on here?
I mean, beard has become, it's fashionable now anyway. So
And the woman is wearing a
it is a
scarf.
it is a big deception. Just because your son has a beard does not make him religious, or your daughter wears a hijab does not make her religious at all.
Yeah.
So these are responsibilities.
Biker gang, they got beards.
We have to be, we have to hold ourselves accountable.
Accountable. That's what I was saying. Self-responsible.
Self accountability.
And the place where I wanted to take it towards as well was that we're all responsible for the deen.
Yes.
Like we're all ambassadors of Deen. You don't have to be alim ad-Deen to be representing Islam. You know, wherever you go, whatever you do, you're representing the Deen. You should conduct yourself properly as representatives.
You
of the Deen.
must study the Deen. You must have sat in good sohbah. Parents must see their responsibility from a young age. And like we were saying yesterday as well about masjids, every person in the community needs to play their role. When everyone plays their role correctly, we can then hope for a good future, so that our children, the generations that are coming through, have seen and have come through a good environment, and then only then we can hope that even after we leave, the generation will pass on that message of Islam.
Yeah, we can conclude on the ayah وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى وَلَا تَعَاوَنُوا عَلى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ. You know, help another, enjoying good,
Support one another.
and support one another in staying away from bad.
فاستبقوا الخيرات.
Inshallah.
Okay, Jazakallah. Thank you very much for the panel today.
Jazakumullah
Nice
khair.
juicy discussion. More next tomorrow, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.